Parc de France. PSG 1, Real Madrid 2, and it's the defending champions that advance to the last 8.
Yes, and Real through to the Champions League quarter-finals for the 8th successive season, 6 years into the PSG project, and they are still no closer to the Champions League top table. Graham Souness, how demoralising was that for them tonight?
They were pathetic. Never looked like putting a dent in Real Madrid at all. You know, this is a collection of big players. You know, you look at the names on the team sheet, big players, cost a lot of money, but you know, we know. You know, names on team sheets don't win you football matches. They were bang average tonight. My overriding thoughts in this game tonight, this is a team that plays in a proper league, the Spanish league. Would have to be bang at it because it's Real Madrid. Everyone plays against them as if it's a cup final, so they don't got any easy games. Against a team playing in a very much a second league, where they don't have to be at the best to win games. And some of them actually just, and we'll point out later, just stroll through that game. At the highest level, you have to sprint back when you lose the ball. You don't jog back. You have a never-say-die attitude if you want to win this big trophy. And they played as if, oh, there'll be another night for us. And they've got the manager of the sack tonight. Pathetic.
Agree, Neil? Pathetic?
Yeah, totally. They were absolutely schooled. And we talked about pedigree. Real Madrid have all the pedigree. Now, that doesn't win you the game. They have all the tradition. That doesn't win you the game. But you can see the difference between the two teams. PSG were soulless. They had no soul. You know, team of individuals. Real Madrid were a team. Ronaldo, you know, Casemiro, Ramos, right through the span of the team. They were fantastic. And they picked PSG off at will. Second half, it could have been 6 or 7. Where do they go from here, PSG? That's their season finished. They've already won the league. They might win the French Cup. But that's the last 16. That is unacceptable for the amount of, you know, money they've put into the team this season. Neymar's a big loss, obviously. But it wasn't just Neymar they were missing tonight. They were missing a lot of other things.
These two have a lot to get off their chests after this. Real Madrid are the first team officially through to this year's quarter-finals. 5-2 aggregate win over PSG. Graham and Neil will show us where it all went wrong for the big... So Real Madrid through. Imperious tonight in Paris. 2-1 on the night, 5-2 in aggregate. PSG scratching their heads, wondering where it all went wrong. Graham and Neil are about to explain it to us. The PSG mentality, Graham, was something you mentioned there at the final whistle before we went to break, and how poor it was, how lacking professionalism was it, or?
It has to come from them playing in a lesser league and them being allowed to get away with it week in, week out, and then the coach comes in the modern way in football. I know my young man here is still doing it, but that relationship between player and manager, I don't believe at this level the managers can dig them out anymore. I think they just have to accept a lot of it.
So when something goes wrong, they don't...
It starts in training. You can't confront it. You can't afford to fall out with the players. So that carries from training into match days. And the stuff I'm seeing here, this is football at the highest level, meant to be at the highest level. Champions League, the best teams in Europe, in the world, given the budgets teams have today. And you're seeing players with such poor attitude. Like, everybody's taught, you lose the ball, get goal side as quick as you can. You play to the whistle. We'll show examples where they just go, And then Verratti, the petulance when he gets himself, he loses the ball, throws himself to the ground, expects a foul, doesn't get it, and he chases after the referee and gets his second yellow card. Off you go, son. It's like, it's not top teams. Top teams don't act like that. Top players don't act like that. So the reason they act like that is because they can get away with it on the training ground, and they can get away with it in the league they play in because they're so much better than the teams they play against. That team will never do well in the Champions League. That group of players will never do well in the Champions League. Unless someone comes in, Unai Emery must allow them away with, on you. How do you want to train today? Do you want to run around today?
Show us then the pieces you've picked out.
Well, it starts out with Pastore. He's not been long on here. Watch his attitude when he doesn't get a foul given. It comes back out to him here. Tries to play it down the side there. He thinks there's a foul there. Watch his attitude. Look. Just stops. Just stop. The whistle's not gone, son. Play. Get goal side. Do a bit for the cause. This is Verratti. Loses the ball, throws himself to the ground, chases after the referee, and deserves, like I said, yellow card. Off you go. There's petulance. But they must be allowed to get away with that in training and on match days when they're playing in the French league. It's not big guy. It's not big guys football.
This is the worst one for me. Just watch Rabiot here with the arm up. Real Madrid are breaking. Just watch what Rabiot does. I'll tell you what he does. Absolutely nothing. Look at his recovery. They're playing the European champions here. And they chucked in the towel, Tommy. They chucked it.
And the fans didn't help either.
No.
Well, I don't see the point in that in the modern game. You know,
You can't-
fans bringing in fleurs and then having a concert, stopping the game when PSG were actually having a bit of momentum. Doesn't help. It was a bad night all round for PSG, but the players, honestly, I said soulless at half-time. I said there was one team out there and a team of individuals, and we saw that second half. The gulf in class was enormous.
And that fed through to the second goal, the Casemiro goal. Some of the things Graham was talking about there. You might take that up for us, Neil.
No problem. I mean, they were a hungrier team, Real Madrid. Streetway, smart. Here's Vasquez, young player, winning the ball. Watch Rabiot, never gets to either side of Gareth Bale. Look at Vasquez's run. He goes past 3 players to get on the end of that cross. Then Rabiot just kicks it back into the middle. They get a bit of deflection on the goal, bit of luck. But it was no more than Real Madrid deserved, Graham, on the night. I mean, they toyed with PSG second half because of the hungrier team. This is a team that has won 3 Champions Leagues in 4 or 5 years. They've got a chance of winning 3 in a row. And you can see why. The difference between the two teams in mentality, in quality, in professionalism, in hunger, in organisation was all apparent tonight.
The biggest thing is a mental attitude.
Totally.
You know what separates the big players from the lesser players is when they get a bit of something goes wrong in the game, they get a punch on the nose. They deal with it and they come back for more. Those PSG players tonight, the first punch on the nose, it was.
Yeah.
I don't think they ever believed they could win the game.
If Neymar plays tonight, is that a different game?
That makes no difference. It gives them a spark, and he's certainly going to do better than Di Maria, who might as well have been sitting with us tonight because I'm not a fan of his. A kidder in every sense of the word. He gave the ball away for fun. Did nothing that got in the edge of the seat other than he miscontrolled a pass when he was right in on the right-hand side. And then he nearly cost him a goal when he should have been doing a job at the other end defending. But Neymar wouldn't have made that big a difference.
Deeper problems.
Tell me the biggest thing. I think the biggest thing for professionals watching that game tonight was the stinking attitude of PSG. Yeah. It's just like, it doesn't really matter. We'll be back again next year. It's Real Madrid. We're not expected to beat them. That's not what you want from your players.
And Real Madrid through to the quarter-finals for the 8th successive season. We talked at length about how poor PSG were tonight. How good were Real for you, Graham?
Well, you have to factor that in, that PSG were very, very ordinary tonight. You know, their attitude at times was stinking. But on the other side of the coin, Real Madrid turned up. You seen early on the game plan was to sit and try and catch them on the break. They sat deep, got Ronaldo and Benzema an hour and a half when they didn't have the ball, and sprung on PSG. I mean, it was a classic European performance by Real Madrid. I think they've obviously been short on consistency this year in their league, but you saw tonight a team that knows how to win the big games.
Defensively, midfield, it wasn't a flashy Real Madrid performance tonight, Neil.
Look, there's an example. Vasquez just dances past Alves. We didn't see any of that from PSG against Real Madrid's defence. I thought Ramos and Varane at centre-half were outstanding, and Real Madrid was so streetwise tonight, street smart, professional. Here's the first goal. What a pick out from Vasquez. And there he is, the main man. He's never going to miss those. And it was coming. Second half, it was complete domination. It's the second goal. Vasquez again runs past 3 PSG players to get on the end of that pass from Benzema, and they end up winning the game comfortably. Now, you cannot buy the Champions League success. You can't buy the history, tradition that these clubs like Real Madrid have. It took Chelsea a long time, 8 to 10 years maybe, to get there in the end. This looks like it's going to take PSG longer. Man City, the closest they've got to the semi-final a few years ago. These other clubs, your Liverpools, your Man Uniteds, your Real Madrids, your Juventus, they all have the traditions, the pedigree, the calibre, and you can see the difference in that tonight. It was night and day. There was such a gulf between the mentality of the two clubs. What
do they lack, Graham? I mean, someone in your position who's obviously won the European Cup and been in a team that did it repeatedly and was at that level where Real Madrid are like now. What do PSG need to do? I mean, we know they've got a sort of infinite amount of money to go out and try and buy it, but what do they need to add to what they have?
Well, I think I'm looking at that team tonight, and that's the team that's allowed to. They must be allowed to. This is me just picking out from this 90 minutes I've watched. They must be allowed to get away with murder on the training ground. Because the things they were doing tonight, which were so unprofessional, would be things you would imagine you would see at poorly managed, indisciplined football clubs. You know, people not playing to the whistle, people holding their hands up, people showing petulance when they're fouled and they end up getting sent off because of in Verratti's case. It was that if I was involved at PSG, I'd say at a director level, that would frighten the life out of me, because that's telling me the coaching staff are not doing their job. Because to be like that in a game means they're like that in training every day they turn up. They're showing such a lack of professionalism and a lack of belief, and then you have to question the people who are trying to get the message across, and that would be the coaching staff.
I think there might be other underlying problems. You can't just buy it. There has to be a structure to it as well. I don't think PSG have that.
Well, they've no history. And the lads have got there now are mercenaries. They're from all the corners of the world, and they've turned up for the big money. Now, is that so different to our league with the big guys coming here playing at the big teams? Yeah, I think it is, for a simple reason. Our supporters don't let them away with that. You know, they belong to them.
PSG, a hostile, passionate supporter base there tonight.
Okay, I'll give you an example. At the end of the game, they're hanging around on the pitch. If going back to, I think the same would happen at Liverpool today, if you performed like that, where you'd give up the ghost on not wanting to run back, if you'd not played to the whistle and it cost you a goal, if you get sent off in such a... You couldn't go and stand on the pitch at the end of the game and not get booed off. And the same would be at Man United, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City, Tottenham. Those lads, because they win the league so easily, their own domestic league, are not bang at it. And they weren't bang at it tonight.
And they just weren't, were they?
No, they weren't at the races at all.
Brian, can I bring you in finally just to touch on tomorrow night then? Tottenham 2-2 against Juventus in Turin. Very positive result for them. Bring them back to Wembley tomorrow. Can they finish the job?
They can, but it's not done and dusted by any means. I said in advance of the match tonight that Real Madrid would be ready for it because of the history and the 12 wins. The team are kind of transformed attitude-wise. For Juventus, they're having a good season now. They've narrowed the gap. They're only a point behind Napoli now. They're on a very successful run. The goals they conceded against Spurs are unusual for them to concede two. They only conceded 3, I think, in 20 games. So I think they're in quite good a nick. And I think they could do Spurs tomorrow night if Spurs aren't at it, which they have been at Wembley this season, and they've been in great form. So great chance for Spurs, but it's not done and dusted by any means. They got to be careful.
Okay, lads, we have to leave it there. Unfortunately, very enjoyable evening, unless you're a PSG fan or a shy Dutchman. That's a great now.